Listen, yeah, because he's going off to bring.
Right, kia ora everybody, welcome back to our council workshop for today. Next up, Saskia Nathan for business support.
Good afternoon, councillors. So we're going to go through our different parts to make our business support. To be fair, it's pretty BAU in this area. Nathan, there are some bigger decision points in Nathan's area. So I've got a couple of slides that we'll just kick into it. So first slide, Wayne. Right, this is Wayne.
So there's not overly much to see up here. We are, well, most of the government costs immediately, so we have to pay them. Next year being an election year, we're proposing to bump up the training and induction sort of pot, just to recognise that there'll be a lot more training and those induction activities and yada 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 after the election, to bring everybody up to speed after the election. That's pretty much it as far as governance goes. We're trying to just sort of keep it with what we're keeping. As far as elections go, which is also my bit, once again, not a lot you can do about that. Put there, they cost a lot, and there's nothing you can do about that. To give an example, I think we've got to get a deal in the end, but I sent a Father's Day card to my dad in Tauranga, and it cost $2 for me to do that. So I did a little calculation. If you send 15,000 envelopes and then ask them to come back of voting papers,
Yeah.
it's $72,000. So
We use election NZ here, who do we?
yeah, we use election NZ, but we still have to.
It's a lot more than that.
Yeah, but that's a postage to get them out and get them back. That's not printing.
Yeah.
That's not someone to make sense of them or all the other legal things. So it does cost.
What was the last cost period? 180, 160.
No, it was less than that, and we do get a little bit back from ORC we did last time because we did some stuff with it. It was about 100 and something like that, 140, but the especially those postal costs have gone up quite considerably from last time.
Basically, a question.
In relation to the postage, how many envelopes unopened get returned as a matter of percentage?
Oh, I don't know because we don't.
They don't come back to here.
No, they don't come back to here. And it's actually not possible to know how many are going to be sent out, I suppose, until we have the roll ready and also the ratepayer roll and that sort of stuff. Because of course, if you own a property in the district, but you don't live in the district, you're still entitled on the to be on the ratepayer roll to vote. But that's an opt-in thing, so it's quite hard to know.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's still quite considerable cost, isn't it?
It is, yeah, it is. And then I just had a note that we smooth the collection of the money for elections over 3 years. So there's not a spike, you know, instead of you having to come up with $100,000 from rates, you can smooth it out over a period of time.
With the training following the election, are we looking at what our Puna has to offer? Because we're getting that for free now, so there's a lot in there.
Yes, we'll be exploring every option, and especially the ones that don't cost anything.
Especially the ones that are free.
Yes. But of course, you've got to remember, I mean, if you're putting on a session for elected members, it gets expensive quickly.
Yeah.
Because of the folk you have to bring in to do it. And there's only certain pools of folk who can do it. So it's just recognising that that's the case, and we account for that in the election year budget.
Do they ever do like a math and like, you know, obviously the guys that come and they've been really great, but is there any way of doing a town hall situation where elected members from all of like Otago can go and actually sit and listen, all, so you're only listening to them, as in all the councils go together like that?
Never really looked at it, tyranny of distance, kind of scatters that.
You could have something for CODC and QLDC.
Certainly,
Yeah,
we-
from my own.
Yeah, we talked
Yes.
about,
Yeah, what about next year?
maybe that's something we should be exploring with our nearest
Yeah.
neighbour, just let's.
Well, I'm sure that,
Yeah.
costs, you know, for a new third, you want.
It should be explored.
It could be a Zoom on the
Exactly.
where you don't actually know one travels, but you could have like,
Yeah. Do a bit of exploring.
Do councillors feel comfortable, obviously there'll be a few times where you can, change it. At this stage, do you feel comfortable that, we've got 30K in the draft budgets? As a starting point?
Is that what we've needed in the past, plus some inflation?
Yeah, this year you're gonna run really close in your training budget. So, and then by the time, especially if you've got members, if you fly anywhere for something, some of those course costs, depending on the new council, you can choose through that pretty quickly. So I do agree near term, looking at online options is a really good option and the resources currently available. We could always sort of cost it out a wee bit more to come when we come back again with the budgets, if you're feeling it is too high.
$70,000 to train the elected members at the top table. That's all elected members actually, isn't it?
30,000.
30 plus 20 plus 20 for a triennium.
Oh, for training, yes.
$70,000 for 3 years for people who are running an $80 million business. Seems a bit light to me.
Yeah,
And personally, I think we should be seriously looking at putting one person a year through the Institute of Directors from council.
and that's
So that's.
10K plus.
Yeah,
About $130 per.
it's not a lot when you're just lost a business.
No, that's an issue.
Yeah.
Do you want us to explore that with the view to, looking at the training opportunities that we're aware of and costing it up? Because I say this year you're gonna run into fire. So it's only 50K we're putting in, so we can definitely come have a look at
Yeah,
it.
we'll take it.
Yeah.
And it's such an incredibly minuscule fraction of,
Yeah.
$240 million of income as opposed to $70,000 of training. I think we need to be, whilst we're looking at cutting costs.
And it's quite important, in terms of the decisions that are going to face this council, that you guys have, are trained and have the skills necessary at the governance level to be making what will be some pretty big decisions over the next few years. Yeah. Okay. So it's governance next time. A couple of, services, formalised, manage these budgets, there's been a couple of decisions. Guidance on. So again, BAU, in this space, as per last year, there are continuing cost pressures, audit fees, that's always a wrangle, isn't it? Insurance is starting to flatten out a wee bit. We're not anticipating the massive jumps in insurance that we've had in previous years, but we do know there will be increases. We won't know those until November, when we start, getting the costings through for the insurance renewal. What we did look at last as well is, we looked at our material damage, which is a big component of our insurance renewal, and we looked at increasing the excess up to 100,000. It was only going to save us something like $20,000, and it meant a whole lot of things like toilet blocks and all that wouldn't even come close. It'd only be the real big damage, and we'd soon chew through that savings and the other damage we've had. So we did do a bit of work last year. I don't know, unless of course you want to take greater risk with your insurance, i.e. not insure things. That there's much that we can fiddle around with insurance in terms of the premium side of things. So
Is there anything we don't insure at the moment?
No
replacement?
underground assets.
Yeah.
We also insure some of our older buildings just for demo,
Yeah.
but everything else, like this building would be fully insured.
We insure our only person's housing because we don't depreciate full replacement.
I would get that, but I would hope so. I would hope they are in there.
I don't recall that we didn't. But it would be handy in answering that question to know what position we're already in, which is extremely limited other than the underground infrastructure.
Yeah. So within that budget, we have, the risk and procurement role that, Gabby McFarlane used to do. Some of you may recall, the risk members that we really struggled to, recruit for that role. What we have been really fortunate, in the last year, we've had Amelia, that shared service from Waitaki, which is working fantastically. But what's happening, because, it is only 0.4, there's heaps of work on my board that's not getting progress, and there's an opportunity to get some extra resource in there to return that back up to a full-time resource. So some of the stuff that we need to do, we've got no contract management system in place, and it's a real risk for this organisation. We haven't had a look at the staff delegations manual in the last few years. There's staff changes. We need to make sure we're compliant with the legislation, and we just haven't had time to do stuff like that. So we took it out of the annual plan. It's still in the current long-term plan in terms of the out years. Our request today would be to return that back up to a full-time role. The next decision point, maybe we'll talk about that one first.
Yeah, and that risk and procurement, would see that person linking quite closely with the general counsel.
Yeah.
Because it is only the general counsel. It doesn't have any support staff in it, but those sort of two positions, risk and procurement and all that sort of stuff will be closely aligned.
Any concerns at this stage? So these obviously decision points, but obviously direction. Council feel okay with that risk and procurement role in the draft budget for that to be returned to a full-time FTE. Oh, and they have quite a critical role in supporting the work that we're in risk committee. So we don't want that to fall behind. But the next thing, and Paul can talk more to this than I can, is we currently have finance contractors of 70,000 in the budget. There is more work than we can probably get the contracts we have at the cost. So what our proposal is actually to use that money smarter and to repurpose that, so keep the same amount in, but make it a graduate accounting position. Do you want to talk about that at all?
The 70,000 we've currently got in the budget is for the entire year, and we're at 50K now.
Yeah.
So it's not just the financial, not just their contractors, that includes things like debt collection costs, etc. that goes in there. And as we use contractors for things like the LTP, Julie's going to be using contractors, although you're paying for that, but out of better off funding. But that cost has got potential to escalate quite significantly, quite quickly as the workload goes through. So the thought process behind that was to strengthen the accounting team. So we've got them in-house to be able to handle all of those additional tasks that are going to be coming our way. And I think it makes, I think it's going to be a saving. 70,000 is not going to cut the mustard, and it won't this year. Right now, we're nearly at that, and we've just started our long-term plan process. So that's thinking behind that.
Thoughts, comments?
I think if we've got the work that a graduate accountant can do, then absolutely growing the workforce for this industry is a worthwhile.
That's future proof us as well, and staff within that team, you know, move on to bigger and greater things in due course. So yeah, it's quite a sensible thing. Approach.
Will they be bonded for 20 years or?
Yeah, and perhaps on that point, you make a better point there myself. No, so this region's grown at 12.6%. And so what we're seeing is we're actually seeing a greater demand on services. But what we'll see over time is as this region continues to grow, there will need to be some modest growth in some areas to maintain the level of service. Otherwise, we will, you know, as it is, we have to push things out to contract to do the work for us because we don't have the in-house resource to do them. That's great. We get a great product, but it comes at a significant cost. And so it's just trying to get the balance right to, as this region grows, our level of service has to adjust a little bit Because if we stand still, we're actually going backwards in level of service. So it's just trying to get that balance right, and where we, you know, and the LTP is a really good time to try and test some of them.
Final point on this slide, direction of decision, direction today is you will recall last year we talked about the two new roles, which was the general counsel and the EV liaison. We have appointed general counsel starting mid-October, so that's pretty cool. So that one's sorted. The one that hasn't progressed, that does need some direction from you today, is the proposal to have a iwi liaison officer, 0.5, so either part-time or a full-time person shared across another council. And I'll ask Peter to just jump in here as well.
Yeah, so, I mean, Waitaki are interested in this and that, would like to explore the option around shared resource. Which we currently, the jury read this, obviously Rebecca supports us some of the time, but then Rebecca, her role is not even liaison, her role is community vision and that sort of stuff. So I'll pick it up some of the time. We will tap in and utilise the resources of an individual, Queenstown Lakes District Council, and some of the other resources. There is a body of work that we sort of de facto sort of push off, or we don't do. And it's under the Local Government Act, whether we like it or not. We have a clear obligation, it's written in black and white, to liaise with iwi Māori within our district. And so we sort of do that and we sort of don't do it. The option, same with Waitaki. So they've sort of come to us and said, look, there's the potential. We have similar iwi partners. Is there a collaborative effort here? We could look to get a resource in, support us both in this. So that's something we are exploring. Obviously, we would need to fund it, and hence the discussion with yourselves.
Was that not part of our being with the car originally to have that?
So
interested?
Not quite, because Alcaha don't do the work on our behalf. So we still have to do stuff. Alcaha's over there, but we still have an obligation within in this neighbourhood, don't we?
Going back to the original agreement, they came to us saying that they would be in that role with us, helping us facilitate all that.
And they do, but they're not the Rebecca, they're not the internal staffers, so I can't go out and start task Alcaha to work on our behalf. And so I'll do it, Rebecca will do it, others will do it. And so we sort of jury work it in collaboration with, say, someone like Waitaki. We might be able to do this better. And then link in too with the other resources that the councils have that we don't have.
Do we not already pay a fixed lump sum a year?
70K, 74K.
Which I thought was to cover exactly this.
What we pay Aukaha is for the agreement that we have in place with them to work together on areas that are mutually beneficial. They do cost out their time. So it's like right now they've helped us with the design of the Cromwell Town Hall and the Riverside Park. So that's done under a commercial arrangement.
So a very small part, if I could, Peter, it would be when we were in the Darwin Bluff for Waitangi and for the meeting with Bruno after Waitangi, the Queenstown chap came on and he was helpful at, telling us where to stand, what to do, when to stand up, because most there's me, open blind, and just there. So that's not something we're going to get a consultant from Alcaha to do. But it's something we rely heavily on Rebecca Sancher in the past, people now, because they have some integral knowledge, but it's not necessarily part of the job.
And I guess I have a question on that, because recognising that we've got an awesome partnership with Aukaha, and they do put it out there that we're one of the best partnerships that they have with council, which is awesome. So if we set aside that, which is the more operational aspect, you've ranked one thing for a whole year, which is not a 0.5 job. What would you envisage seeing this person doing in this area where we have no eye and our scope is limited? Like, I recognise that there's a big pull on you and Rebecca, as being the people who are fluent in Te but what would that role look like in this area?
Sitting down playing fluent in but like, it's 8% of this community is Māori. We know that, but that's all we know. And we might have a relationship with Ururu Whenua, So it's trying to, as this region grows and all that sort of stuff, it's, you know, we are obligated to consult with iwi and Māori. We probably do the iwi bit sort of okay, because, and I say sort of, because at a relationship level, it's the mayor to the heads of the rūnaka. And to be honest, the mayor probably needs some support in that, because our ability to reach out to the rūnaka at times is constrained, because we just don't have the resource to reach out to the rūnaka as we need it. So there's some things that we work directly to Ōkaha, but when we're talking broader issues like the Mata'ao and the river, well, that's not Ōkaha. That's the rūnaka partners, but we don't do that well, because we just don't have the capacity to go to the three rūnaka as we should do under our obligations. And so this person will help bridge that gap, and because we share along the coastline the same sort of rūnaka, there might be some sort of synergies there.
But was that not their problem as well, in that they don't want all councils going directly to them, and that's why they established Ōkaha?
No, because Ōkaha will say, first of all, and they're very clear what their mandate is, and they're very clear on what their mandate isn't. And so when we broach into areas like we would like this, they said, well, that's not a conversation for us. That's a conversation you have to have with Ed, or you have to have with Matapura, or I don't know who the other person is, Justin Tips up in Mora, because that's Ōkaha are bounded by what they can do, and there's a large chunk of what they can't do.
What would it look like for this area if we were to appoint someone and they weren't Ngāi Tahu?
Oh, well,
But would that have an implication on the relationship?
a couple of things here. I think one is it's always going to be merit based, and so, and it's likely, I think, if it was a shared resource, that we're more likely to probably land someone who lives along the coastline, because that's where the marae are. It's likely that they would have affiliation to the Ngāi Tahu, but it's not essential. You know, I came out of Upper Hutt. We had 3 over the course of my time there. Only one was, it's classified as Ngāi Whenua. The rest were from the Bānoa or Tauranga. So it comes down to the person.
I think it's, like, I'm yet to be convinced, I'll be honest, but I know in my 8 years where I was, I'm still quite ignorant, but I'm highly educated compared to where I was 8 years ago. There were a lot of mistakes made by me in 8, 7, 6, 5, 4 years ago.
Intentional mistakes.
But if you continue to remain ignorant and don't get help, sooner or later, I think it's fair that the patience runs out. You know, if you keep lummoxing things up because you don't know, and you don't get help.
Anyway, our training budget and what training is provided to elected members.
I think we need to see a really clear definition of what the role would encompass.
We're sitting here knowing that we've just had an 80.4 rate increase, knowing that we're going to have to cut costs. I'm here that we're told that we've got a good relationship, even though it might be calling above and beyond the staff within the organisation to maintain that. But I still have got, when Ōkaha came here, we were told that $70,000 or $74,000 a year was being paid because they, to support them as an organisation. And I still struggle with what seems to be the duality of roles in our relationship with them. And they get that we consult them as we should and pay for the consultation time, that's fine. But if that $74,000 was removed from them and put towards the liaison office, I could understand that. But in these times, I can't really, I'm struggling. And I'm entirely ignorant, so I'm struggling to just justify why we should be doing that now when we know we're going to be looking at cutting costs, and that might just fall into a nice to have, or we're going to we'll put it onto year 2 or year 3 basis.
Well, how about we do this? Given the problem we have is if we say, no, forget about it, that's making a decision. Would it be useful to members to have a press they put out for what the job would entail and a reminder of what our Ōkaha agreement gives us, And then it come back to a situation where better than one line there and some put out around the table. It's pretty light on what we've got. I just think it needs to be dealt with one way or the other, but I don't think we have enough in front of us to deal with it one way or the other safely now.
Yeah, I think it would be a 0.5.
To see,
Well, it'd be a 0.5, could have been a 0.25, or, you know, is it a figure, like, is it the money, or is it the role? I mean, really, I'd say we do need a liaison person, but can it tie in and it's another staff member? Could it be a lesser dollar value or role for a
and
start?
I don't even know if it's on the dollar value, I think it's on show us the value add.
Yeah.
I've worked with a lot of people with that title who appear to do very little for their role. And I think it'll be detrimental to the organisation to bring someone in that even the other staff don't understand what that role is and what's required.
So let's come back for a bit of discussion.
Yeah, absolutely, so we can do that. Thank you.
Good. Okay, so going to hand over now to Nathan. Couple of directions needed.
Just where does looking at the cost of the secretariat, the support governance, so do we examine that at all and quantify how much it's costing us to have a secretariat for the support of council and community boards?
So you mean Wayne and Sarah as well?
Yeah.
They're captured within the governance budget, so it's this slide. So what we've got is at the moment, Sarah's overseas, and I must say, the workload on Wayne has been horrific. So we have one, it's not Sarah, what, she's 30 hours a week?
Yes.
Yeah.
I just asked the question because we had a title that said government,
Yes. So
and I
within-
was sat within that area.
Yeah. And then we think of changing and
Well, I mean, it's an area that needs to be quantified, I believe, for council, because if nothing else, we're looking at digitalisation and that would impact on those costs. And we need to have some idea of what we're talking about in that area.
Okay, we'll maybe continue that after 3:30.
Yeah. It's just where it sits.
Right. Down to small print, Nathan.
Yes. So some of you may not have seen this before. So this is our digital and information strategy. As you can see, it started in 2022 and finishes in 2025. We do plan to review it and renew it in June, July this next year. Just wanted to bring that to your attention because this is in particular the digital services, information technology, applications and leadership piece right in the middle. That's what I refer to as our focus areas. If you go to page 2 on that, next slide please, Wayne. So from those focus areas, I create programs of work. I'm not going to go over each of these programs of work today. There's not anything has changed in some of them, but there has been some changes and some potential new items that I would like to get some direction on in those. So that's just for context. If you go to the next page, page 3, these are the things that are happening in those various programs. So as you can see within the service management, so that's managing the IS team as such, there's a slight reduction on year 27, assuming that we proceed with a project in that year, being the project management solution. And there's also a reduction in our core ICT. So when I talk about our core ICT, that's the stuff that nobody typically sees except for my techie tab. The big change there is the cyber security side of things. As you can see, the firewalls have dramatically increased from 30,000 every 3 years to 100,000 every 5 years. That is to strengthen our cyber security, our protection of how stopping basically people getting into our organisation that we don't want to get into the organisation. There's also a maintenance and support increase from 12 to 100,000 per annum.
Is that in the space of 1 year?
That's 1 year.
Wow.
Like you say.
When you say it's maintenance and support, is that come in the form of an actual physical resource, human, or does it come in like something out there with little numbers that come into your computer? That's the level of my technical expertise.
It's
It's the external.
Yeah, so the way that I explain it is it's a follow the sun sort type of thing with their maintenance and support, be it a person or them sending stuff to their firewalls. So if there's a security breach in America, that by the time it gets to our part of the world, we've got our firewalls updated. So that's happening in real time all the time, and that's what that support does. Or we have to call somebody to go, we've got something going on, how do we fix that? That type of support as well.
Were those numbers put in the AP?
No.
No, because it's just a plan done every year. It's
So
not.
this has happened since we've done the AP.
Yes.
Rost.
But we did not want to be Waikato District Health Board,
No, I understand.
and that's the real risk when organisations don't maintain their cybersecurity protocol.
So these costs can do this every year from now to the rest of our life.
Go back to pigeons.
Yeah.
Okay.
When we are a data repository, we have everyone's got personal details, their bank accounts and all that sort of stuff. We have the duty to protect that. And it's not perfect.
Yeah, I can't sit here and guarantee that there's not going to be a significant increase. I mean, what we've signed up for is for the next 3 and 5 years, depending on which part of the mix is. So it's definitely fixed for that period of time, but beyond that, I can't.
So
predict that.
in your long-term budget, you can turn around and say that you're going to have 0.5% rate rise every year on record if it follows this trend.
I would hope not.
Well, effectively, they make the decisions that you have to pass on.
Yeah, and interesting, I went to a seminar a couple of weeks back, and when you get into these providers as a service providers, as the demand is reducing for the cloud services, basically, the shareholders are putting more pressure on those providers to keep the margins up, and those prices are increasing. So you'll also see in the user ICT space, the Microsoft licensing has increased by 25,000 per annum. That's another example of that scenario. And that's the software that our users use every day.
Firewalls and licensing, 120. It's great fun, this job. Go home, mum.
So I mean, the reductions that I've got there, yeah, like pretty quick. So that's the change.
See them though, no.
Makes at least making an effort.
Down 120.
So next page.
Oh, the numbers get better.
Oh,
You're finished.
I'm too scared to do that.
Those are the changes.
You'd be good on a farm. Next page.
So these are the ones that I'm looking for direction of.
Good.
So the enterprise information system, so that's the applications or software that we utilize across our whole organization in some way or another. So one of those options there that we're promoting, and Wayne, if you can go to slides, I'm going bypassing slides, you go to slide 14 if you could for me, please.
The capital one?
The data platform and visualization Kickstart project.
Oh, okay, the other 14. Bill?
Right. So this is the first new one. So the whole, so a bit of background for starters. So due to current tools having limited visualization and pressure from the business, we undertook a proof of concept on data visualization. That proof of concept proved quite successful, especially in our regulatory space. Our regulatory manager is a big advocate of visualizing our data. Power BI, which is part of that Microsoft 365 licensing increase that you've seen, we get Power BI part of that suite. But Power BI on its own is not the magic bullet. It's not the solution. We've got to put effort in to actually do data visualization. So I'm going to touch on what data visualization can do. So the business case for a data platform and visualization Kickstart project is council collects and maintains data across a range of information systems from financial, customer, regulatory, assets, project, tourism, and economic sources. Additionally, we have access to a range of data from external sources. This data is all siloed. This data typically just is data, numbers, text fields, and it's very hard to consume by a human. As well, a well-crafted data story helps humanise that information, making it relatable and memorable. It's not just about the data, it's about what the data is telling you. Data is the key to making informed decisions, but to achieve this, data visuals is important for humans to consume that data. A good example of that is our GIS system. So GIS is not about somebody on a screen clicking and drawing lines. It's based on data, and that data produces a good visual. We look at what our district plan is now as an example. That is all based on data. Next slide, please, Wayne. So there's two parts to us in essence. There's above the line, take an iceberg type approach, and below the line, below the water. So the dashboard is the Power BI part. That's the pretty part that most people get to see. The effort and the cost comes in what is below the water. And that is taking our data and realising it, taking all that silo data that we've got distributed across either internally or externally, and bringing it together, being able to make it more integrated, extracting it and transforming it, modelling it out and cleaning it. And then we can go and visualise it. And when I talk about visualising it, building the capability across our organisation, making sure that our users understand the power of data, help us improve our data quality, which then enables us to make better business process decisions, making them more customer focused, but also help this table and our executive team and our leaders in this organisation make better decisions for the community and the future of the organisation. Next slide, please, Wayne. But now data needs to be taken on a journey to tell us a story. We already collect data, but are we collecting the right data? Are we collecting too much data? What do we do with that data once we have it? What visuals do we create right now to help users and council tell the story, not just for now, but also for the future? Could we present our performance measures or our operational day-to-day reports and dashboards in a better way? The data platform and visualization assists in transforming raw data and telling or sharing compelling data stories. And if we take the Lego situation, turn it from that jumble of blocks into something that actually looks like something useful. So next slide, please, Wayne. I've got multiple options for you to consider.
Oh, thanks.
So status quo, which is what we do right now. We have metric performance that we do some data visualization in now, and that's the tool that I'm referring to in terms of that limited capability to visualize our data. We use Excel. Problem with Excel is a very up to the individual that's creating the data. And then we're doing some Power BI right now, but we don't do it in a very user-enabling way. We're not enabling the user to actually do this themselves.
I just wanted to say, if anyone's wondering what Power BI is, I've just Googled it and it's business intelligence.
Sorry.
Just in case, because I was getting confused. Yeah.
My recommended option is internal capability. So finding somebody to add to my team, which may be a bit of a struggle because it's not a simple thing, but finding somebody with Power BI business intelligence capability, also a bit of analytical thinking, so a data analyst and a database administrator. The database administrator is the hard part to this. My secondary backup option is taking it outsourced and taking a big bang approach to it. It comes with a big ticket, 430 over 3 years, and ongoing 55. And then a couple other options, which is a more agile approach of buying some hours off a consultant and working with that consultant. Questions?
Just on that, so before we go into questions, there is no doubt that at some stage we will need to have a Power BI type system because our data is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And if you ask me, do I know what we have? I'd say, no, we don't. Across the organisation, we do not, because it's just silent. It's in so many parts, but the ability to pull it together and make sensible decisions, I just can't tell you what I don't know. But right now, I know we're not utilising the information we have because we can't draw it out, we can't bring it up, we can't share it across the organisation. And this is true of every organisation as we become more digital and more digital. This is the problem, the ability to take that information and use it, and we're just going to get more of it. That's a real challenge for every organisation. We're not unique here. Tana.
The 430,000 over 3 years, how likely is it that that's going to be a fit for purpose over 3 years, given how fast things move? Would it be adaptable? And then once we get to the end of that 3 years, are we going to be looking at more of the same to continue on? It's not like a big bang, we spend it once and then it's done, is it?
No, I mean, the whole purpose of either the recommended or the secondary solution is to build capability within the team. With the secondary one, the idea is to build that capability across the whole organisation. Well, both of them want to do that, but trying to reduce that cost over time by having good capability within this organisation. But like you said, technology changes on a regular basis is where I say. This is working with the consultant to try and get them provide me some advice on this, and this is the best recommendation at this stage.
Okay. You just said that there's not necessarily a lot of these people around.
A lot of people around the mixed skill set that this role would require.
Okay.
Typically, you would have, in a large organisation, you would have a database administrator, a Power BI person, and a data analyst as separate roles. Trying to find one combined can be challenging. If you had to choose, what would you choose and then train that person to do? What's going to be the most important part for you to go forward with? The database administration part. Okay. And the rest can be trained. I've got 2 business analysts within my team right now, and we're doing some Power BI stuff now and then eliciting from the business now. It's just having the capacity to do more.
You'd be very vulnerable, so you'll be very vulnerable to that one person getting a better offer.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is not a critical system in the sense that it's, something needs to wait for a week to change. That's fine versus something like a GMS system where changes need to happen on a regular basis.
If they came in and worked for 6 months and got things going and then left, are we back to square one, or is it incremental that the next person could pick up what's been achieved and move it on?
That comes down to the individual's training and capability. So making sure we get the right person is critical at right points during the process of that occurred.
Do you say?
My question is, so it's going to give us more access to more information and prettier stuff, but do you think there would be any cost savings within the organisation? So do you think by doing this, we could save money in other areas?
That's a hard question to answer.
If I jump in there, what it will mean is I won't spend 2 hours trying to pull through the information to make a decision. I'll have the data visualization. LT can get together. We don't label, we don't waste our hourly rate, and the information is there. We can make an informed decision at the point of time we need to make an informed decision. Because right now, and it's the same as yourselves, you'll say to us, go back, we need a bit more information. And we'll say, and so it's that we consume time because we think time's free. It's not free, it's actually costing us. Because whilst we're doing other things, we're not being as efficient as we can be. Most organisations, most councils don't invest in the business. This is about investing in the business to try and make smarter decisions at the time we need to make those decisions. And so will there be actual dollar savings? I would say probably not, but what you will see is a greater ability to make decisions at the right time when they needed to without having to kick the can down the road.
And that regulatory proof of concept that I talked about with the regulatory manager, that's exactly what he's saying, is his ability to quickly get that information and make decisions is way faster than what he has in the past.
Is it, well, you might have just answered my question before. Is it, Tim, you're probably going to go, I can't believe you asked this. Is it appropriate for a business this size, an entity of this size, to have that type of specialised as well as what we've already got, which is already doing it?
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because in the next financial year, we'll be at our debt ceiling. We will be, on in terms of revenue, $80 million. Our OPEX costs will be, our CapEx will be probably the biggest capital program we've ever had. And you're asking me, should we have a system like that? We should have had a system like that 5 years ago. I mean, we're going to have a system. It's just when we make the decision to have that system. Because we're just falling further and further behind that curve.
I can see this being the sort of thing that if we don't do, in 3 years' time, you'll be a startup, you're going to sit at the end of the table and say, well, I could have afforded that. BI would have told us that, but yes. And that's the kind of stitch and time stuff that can save millions. Tens of millions.
We've got to do this stuff. We're avoiding our responsibilities by not using the tools we've got in the toolbox to make sure we make the best decisions for our grandchildren in the future. Because if we go back 10 years in the decision making we make today, or the last year, or 5 years ago, we're going nowhere. And if you want to live in Central Otago and you want us to have security at the highest level, you want us to have state of the art, we are that place. And then what cost? It is 1% of the race. But like, that's what we're going to try to pick up 1%, 1%, someone has to take it back to the balance. We've got to have it.
I think that's very wise what you just said, Stu, but alongside that, what we need to be careful of as governors, that if we go, yeah, okay, that one's good, and then you leave, and somebody else comes in, and oh, yeah, shit, you've got a good point, yeah, that's, yeah. We need a list at the end of.
That's right. And that's what you'll get when we.
They're great.
What you need is the guidance now, and then when we bring back the budgets, then you'll see.
It's going to be this is.
Yeah. What is it in? What is it out?
So if we say, yeah, progress with A, that doesn't mean you're hiring somebody tomorrow, that means it's coming back to us.
Another short.
Yeah, that's what we need to keep in mind. I think from my gut, your recommended makes sense. Yeah, your secondary has risks that taking up the license fee, as we've seen, and so forth. The biggest risk we have there is between recommended and secondary, it's doing nothing. So we progressed with the thinking on recommended and it comes back to us in the budgets. Thank you.
Cool. Next item on that new page, page 4.
Don't let me line.
That's where it got. This is pretty simple, organisational wide project management solution. This is year 3 of the LTP. So this is just an awareness item, not the next slide, Elaine, sorry. I'm not going to talk about this too much, apart from we're thinking about 175 capital to get this up and running and ongoing cost beyond that, year 3 onwards, 60,000 per annum.
Are we on the wrong slide?
No, it's not the slide, Elaine, just go back to the previous.
I see.
Is the one called you?
No, it's all right, just ignore that at the moment,
Okay.
just for time purposes.
Ignores it.
The next items on that list is organisational wide contract management, salary budgeting and risk management solutions, comes to a total of 30,000. And the risk management and contract management solutions have an ongoing cost of 11,000 and 4,000 per annum. So that's pretty minor in the grand scheme of things. The next couple items there are under my information management side of things. Secure digital signing. Currently, we use an analog method to stamp signatures on documents. The secure digital signing is about, and that only happens internally currently. This is about doing this externally in a more secure manner. So it's again about that security side of things. Pretty minor increase in fees there. The property files online, as you know, we're digitising our property files with 66.2% and plan to have that completed next financial year. The idea of that is to get it like have neighbours across the road, getting it online so that our customers can consume that online themselves, like the LDC start users can do now via eDocs. The GIS part that I'm looking for some direction on is GIS is quite a critical system. I touched on it before in terms of the visualization piece. At the moment, we have a single role risk there. Additionally, our district plan is now all digitized in GIS. It has created more capacity or need in the GIS space, and we are seeing a lot of growth. And additionally, our asset management side of things needs more support in that space as well. Obviously, assets being visualised within GIS is quite a critical part for our staff and the public to consume that data. And we've got a range here in terms of the salary, 68, 86,000.
But that's a real vulnerability to us. And where I came from, we had 4 people in Mount Hutt doing GIS, and when you went to set up an EOC for an emergency, you needed all 4 to run 24/7 for 3 or 4 days, however long that emergency was. GIS underpins everything now, just like data. And that is a real, to have one person in a council when all your, what your community looks at when they, and the laws consent, planning consent, building consent, all that sort of stuff, is the visualization and the growth that's occurring to represent all that data into the GIS platform. I'm surprised we're able to do it with one person. But, you know, and have actually redundancy. I just think that's a real risk that role screams out to have at least 2 people.
And the people information system side of things, and managing looking after our staff, we are looking at changing their payroll in the future, slight increase there. From a business continuity emergency management perspective, so I manage the capital program for the emergency management team. We are looking at 4 emergency management generators and trailers over the next 4 years, so 1 in this financial year and 3 in the next over the next years of the LTP. And that's spreading them around the district into their various service centres, and then 3 more emergency management kits over the next 3 years as well to support emergency management practices.
Just, if you buy them and you don't use them, is the technology that they come with going to be sufficient?
The generators or the kits?
Well, I guess the kits, because I presume you're talking about stuff so that the business side of things can operate.
In terms of the kits, it's pretty manual, basic sort of things that they utilise in those kits.
It's not something that's going to. It's not something that's going to be out of date.
No.
Okay.
In terms of the generators, we talk about 25 years sort of life.
And the generators provide capacity for anything other than your potential use, or?
So we have a generator for this building, so being the main centre, and then it's about utilising those generators at those service centres or where the need might be, and providing obviously power for whatever that situation might be. But typically depends if it's you're talking from a business continuity perspective, yes. From an emergency management perspective, it depends on where that emergency is going to be, how much we have to stand up.
Storage of those items?
Good question. I'd have to ask her about that.
I do know, in the Teviot, there's a trailer down there that gets moved around, so it's not at a specific location, so other people use it, but the emergency management always know where it
Yeah,
is.
so that one is one year for replacement, basically to renew that generator. Yeah, and that's a good example that it does get moves around and utilised when needed.
Yeah.
Wayne, would you like to go to pay slide 34?
What's the 161 for CCT?
That's sound right now.
Gotcha.
Do you think he was going to slip that one in without?
So while Wayne's finding that slide, reminder that Gareth and I had come and talked to council before in a past workshop. We have gone away and done some further work. Central Lakes Trust and New Zealand Police are not willing to fund CCTV. New Zealand Police expect local government to fund CCTV within their own districts. We have increased demand from the community and police for CCTV. Back to the previous slide, please, Wayne. We already have an MOU in place with New Zealand Police. We also have a CCTV policy in place for our existing CCTV. This is about there is increasing risk, not just to staff in public facing roles, but there's also damage to public facilities across the district. And as an example, Audits had $34,000 worth of damage done previous financial year. We see CCTV as a deterrent. The system and the information captured can be used to prosecute when needed. The system needs to be centrally managed, as in the content that it's people access, be it staff within council or New Zealand Police. The The solution also includes live monitoring for locations such as a customer services or pool, so we can monitor in the pool situation what's happening in the pool itself, or as people are wandering into our customer services area to ensure that if we've got somebody walking in the gun, as an example, we haven't seen that in this day and age, but it does happen worldwide, that we can be a bit more proactive rather than reacting to that situation. If you pop to the next slide for me, please, Wayne. So 161,000 is the capital part of this, and I've broken it down in 3 different ways. One based on the needs, one based on the ward, and one based on the activity within council. The other part to this is the ongoing cost of 15,000 per annum, and that is the support the live monitoring side of things, so we can actually be proactive and put in the right processes and procedures in place to address things when things are happening. Questions?
Questions, councillors?
How are you gonna do that for 15 grand again?
Yes.
So this QLDC work with Cougar already,
Yeah.
and they are doing it for very similar money and way bigger CCTV network than what we've got. So they basically have a control room with screens up monitoring the target locations across QLDC as an example.
How many times in the last 12 months would you have wished that you would have had CCTV footage rather than damage on the toilets where somebody would have been wearing a hoodie up like this anyway? How often would you have gone, great, thank God we've got this. This is brilliant.
Top of mind would be 2 instances, I would say in the last 12 months. I would have been happy that we had CCTV.
And those 2 incidences both involve staff safety?
Yeah, they both involve me coming out to front desk.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we could look at these at our high risk places and break that cost down a whole lot. Actually,
So with both those incidents at pools,
No.
At front desk.
front desk here, sorry.
Yeah, and I think the second thing to add there is, you know, across our district, we have quite a few sites where at times, there aren't many people on site. You know, exposed to loan working and things like that, where, you know, there could be at home and some of the only things they have access to. So this is also one that provides just extra reassurance for a manager who may be based at your office and the office.
so if we were to say, given how much we've kind of amber lighted to you already, and that's the amber light that comes on before green, not red, which is no such thing. It may be useful to have this not broken down into that, but where the need is, when you've actually got council, and quantify it more than this would be the ideal scenario to the real need, because we can't just say yes to everything. But when I hear that staff safety is an issue, and you know, we've had members in similar situations who wish to main cameras and other issues.
I mean, and the deterrent, I mean, with the damage to the public toilets, there has been some that enabled the police to intervene, and and so that's the deterrence that over time those young children, I think they were, weren't they? But the fact that they've been spoken to and seen and identified has enabled the police to intervene. Otherwise, as we see, and we can't claim insurance for toilets because the threshold's normally not high. So that's just the cost of that 30 cut. Well, the cost of the damage to the toilets just come by that line, just make good the repair. So, you know, it's trying to, with the right technology and the right deterrents, and normally it's only a handful of people. Those sorts of things could potentially be detected and dealt with.
Just going back to pools again, which is the highest line item there. That's not safety in the swimming pool itself, is that just for the front desk area?
We would have had one incident this year at before, the safety camera would have been very helpful for the investigation.
Within the pool.
Yeah, yeah, which one instance this year, which would have been very helpful.
How many of those, aspects do involve lone workers or bits where there'd be one person alone in the service centre? Because I take it there's never just one staff member on a pool or a library, is there?
There is some libraries.
Some libraries, okay.
And the biggest sectors, around Alex and things, it's very rare for people by themselves.
Yeah.
But in the smaller areas, there's times, especially around, there are various times where it is, people are lone workers. Yeah.
Maybe we could break it down,
I
like
think
I said, into those critical.
If we give a general direction that you need to sharpen your pencil on that line that says need, and come back to us with justification for those costs.
Okay.
Because I don't think we can say yes to all of it, much more as I'd love to have it.
Yeah, that's pretty easy.
What about, did you say it was $34,000 worth of damage done
Yes.
last year?
Yeah, so you can look at the damage to facilities 34 versus 35.
So could we stage this and spend 35K a year on CCTV? It's not gonna, we'd still end up having the damage though, wouldn't we, in the beginning? But could we stage it over a number of years?
Just because you've got the TVs there, isn't going to make the damage.
Yeah. Make the damage go away, is it?
And
Yeah.
The deterrent is a comment, it's not a guarantee.
And just, can you confirm, the waste and wastewater, what are we talking about there? Is that our treatment plants and that sort of stuff?
So it's the dumping of waste.
that stuff ran for a little, wouldn't
No, the Cromwell, sorry, Julie.
So for wastewater, it's the septic receival site at Cromwell. We have CCTV camera on it to make sure that the septic truck users are using the site appropriately, because we've had lots of incidences of them bypassing the connection and just pouring into the pit. There are all sorts of dodgy things.
we? Prosecute for it?
No, but we do, follow up, and we don't have any bylaw to prosecute anything. So we do follow up with them and threaten to withdraw the use of the site.
Oh, okay, why are we threatening?
Trucks coming in district. We just.
So we did have one just last week where one company was advised, and I think they dob each other in, because we were told that they had collected waste from septic tanks and the Queenstown Lakes District Council and all of Cromwell, and it's a condition of their use that they don't do that, but we've got no means of knowing what the force.
So we need to buy
But
them.
they had actually done some dodgy when they were using the site as well.
She's.
So they can help, and we were able to clean up.
COVID. All right, I think this is
That's the point on the current CCTV solutions that we've got in place, the very distributed individual systems at the moment. The whole idea behind this is to try and pull it all together to make it one solution as well.
Because at the end of the day, didn't we have a problem ran through it, just somebody lifted a manhole cover and poured something down? You're never going to cover all that. You're not going to cover that, though. No. No, we might have Britain.
We'll look at that through big sheet in it.
Darwin, it was your voice.
We'll be like, it's all period soon. You can
That would be the second bird reference for today.
All right, Davis, thank you.
get moved aside.
Thanks, mate.
It's better than believable.
You want to actually put all the stuff out before you have the next election, let people know what they're in for when they stand.
Yeah.
It's actually not a bad point.
Still in, the team we've managed to spend hour, 5 minutes on a half-hour paper, so that's up to us. I don't see, but I think
This one up.
there's none of that that's come up from. No, it's far away. Oh,
Right, my nose bringing up a presentation.
Just a card.
While my nose bringing up the presentation. So we have taken, as directed, a status quo approach to our, the LVP budgeting for this year. So I'll talk you through it as we go. There's a couple of things I do want to highlight. You can go to slide 2 if you want there, Wayne. So obviously just a reminder of what functions are that sit within the community vision theme. Where are those? Onto the next one, Wayne, please. So things we know for sure, our communities are changing rapidly. They have an increased expectation of us, their needs are changing. And there's a high level of angst out there in the community, not necessarily at council, but just within people within the community. We also know, and we see it particularly in economic development and tourism, we've essentially got 4 different economies within Central Otago. So Central Otago is not one economy, it's essentially 4 different ones. We have different needs and require different assistance. When we talk about community development level, we've also got many different communities that have different needs and different wants and things like that. We know access to central government funding, particularly for community grants and things, is less than it was last year. It's only going to get less again in the future, we anticipate. We know Central Otago struggles to get the attention of central government, like our neighbours in Queenstown do. So we have to cozy up to those, our friends over there, and work with them. And we also know community development, economic development both come up regularly in the resident opinion survey as being high priority to our residents. Next slide, please, Wayne. This is obviously not the exhaustive list of everything that the Community Vision team does, but I guess these are probably some of the more strategic long-term focused projects that the team work towards. I guess up there I wanted to touch on partnerships. Partnerships obviously create a significant amount of efficiency for us as well, whether they be local or regional. We're able to work in collaboration with others that help us do things that we couldn't otherwise do. And I think community plans and community-led development is a really good example of stuff that would possibly sit with us, and it would tie up significant resource for us. But when the community takes the charge on things, and you look at the Oxford swimming pool as an example, perfect example of something the community taking the charge on. Another is the Naseby Dark Skies accreditation. So obviously that tied up resources within our planning team. They had that set with our tourism team or our community development team that obviously would have tied up other resources that we don't have. Wayne, next slide, please. So I do want to bring to your attention, I guess, a couple of areas that we've discussed over the last 12 months and earlier. Things that I suppose there's some risk that I want you to be aware of. We know there's a trend, declining engagement with council and council processes. We know there's a desire by councillors and by staff to increase engagement with our community, and particularly with our younger demographic. We know we want more people providing feedback into consultation processes. We know that by communicating and telling the stories of what we do, we'll build confidence with our community. We know by taking status quo approach to communications and engagement that we're unlikely to change the needle and really be able to deliver any significant change. That's not because there's not a desire within the team to make change. They would dearly love to, just as you do, have a greater level of engagement with our community. But with the current resourcing that we have, it's unlikely that we'll see any significant change. That's slide 1. Next slide. Is there engagement and evidence? So this is, there's some examples of pieces of paper that obviously we get involved in at different levels, particularly Nick's involved in many of these pieces. We struggle, one, around investment in research. We invest in research on an ad hoc basis. So essentially, the Benji Patterson report is a good example. The only reason we got that report was because Nick had an underspend in its budget from the year before. There was neither budgeted to have that report prepared for us, but it was obviously helpful in preparation of the new economic development strategy being prepared. The 2 most significant pieces of research that my team's undertaken in recent time have both come from central government funds that have been quite ad hoc in themselves. So this Destination Management Fund being funded through the STAT Fund, and the District Vision project coming from the Three Waters Better Off funding. So we can't rely on funding like that to be able to provide us that research. Research like that, and particularly things like the Benji report, will help us be able to work in how we might prioritise bits of work that feed into things such as regional deals. What we don't know is things like what would actually be the true impact of minimum flow on our economy and our environment at the Central Otago. And we could say actually that's ORC's responsibility to help us understand that and to be able to unpick that. Equally, I suppose the challenges, we have a capacity issue that we can't engage at that level. We don't have the capacity within the team to be able to go and have a really deep, meaningful conversation around ORC. This is a challenge for us. How do we actually get this? As you know, we've only got Nick in the economic development role. Nick appears everywhere, as you all see, and does an amazing job. But there is only one Nick, and it would be very hard to pick up any extra. I'll move on. Thank you. Revenue generation. So I'm bringing you a paper at the end of this month to talk about these two pieces up here. So there's the short-term accommodation, commercial target rate conversation that we'll be having, and then there's also a longer-term view around localised visitor levies. Also to note as well, tourism currently brings in around about 100,000 in partnership funding already through the work programs. As is. Next page, Wayne. Savings or efficiencies. I put this up there before Tim did. So look, grants is an area that obviously we're having a conversation right now with the community boards about. This is more the policy piece. We will be having a conversation with both community boards and council around what budgets for grants look like in the October, November period until we feed those in. This is one area where there could be an opportunity to create savings for the community. Clearly, if we take grants away, that's going to have an impact on things in the community, but that's a conversation. What we do know about grants is they are an amazing way for us to connect with the community and enable things to happen. And the other piece that's obviously not up there, it's a conversation, but possibly later down the track is around the level of service conversation. Yeah, and that's me.
Thank you. Councillors, questions? Tracy?
What is the, I maybe should know this, but what is the full grants allocation, like the full budget, the full amount for council grants? Full grants.
$1,737 in the last financial year to 20 different projects.
And that's just council.
That's just community grants.
Oh, not promotions. So promotions would be another 160 on top of that.
Yeah, 400. So it's roughly half a million. 1%.
Yeah.
But those grants are actually reaching people that can't afford to do a lot of the stuff anyway. They're as much of a benefit to the community as anything.
But have a discussion.
Yeah, good discussion will have, I believe.
Anything else?
Come on.
Dylan, you caught up time. Amazing.
I'm looking forward to seeing what you say about the visitor levy,
Yeah.
Yeah,
given what's come out in the media lately.
Enough. And the Neil talked to us, like, we don't actually have much detail, but yeah, we just talked about a regional deal, a sub-regional deal. And you know, that's one of the agenda items, QLDC wants some sort of levy. And if it extends into Central Otago, what, I mean, there's no detail on any of this, and we don't even know if we're at the queue of that. But there's talk about this region being 1 in 5, and QLDC would like to partner up with this region. So even that's the topic of conversation will come.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the irony of it is you go to Europe and
That's common.
you have a bed tax every single night.
America,
Yeah, you just, you pay. It's part of it.
The international visitors levy's gone up,
Yeah.
but there's still no indication how any of that's going to go down to us. How-
Yeah, because how do you sit there, do we go to Queenstown Lakes and 5 million people come into Queenstown? We got $10 a person on 10% of that. And then how do you impose a visitor levy or a tourist levy? They're not proposed.
Well, so I think, and this is the challenge with the international visitor levy, and Tim and I had this conversation with you, is obviously there's already posturing for money out of the international visitor levy based on where international visitors go. We know that's not here. So that would put us on a back foot. So a localised visitor levy, which picks up anyone staying, whether they be domestic or international, staying in any form of accommodation, whether that's an Airbnb or a commercial hotel, would lead to our advantage, but would equalise, go and see what it is. Pretty much, that's a conversation for the end of the month.
So the people who invested in the tourism industry and put their own cash in, they're gonna pay tax on top of tax.
Wait, that conversation, leave
Tax on top of
Beautiful,
tax.
thank you, Dylan. Next up, the inimitable David Stewart.
Oh, they're gonna bring good news to that.
I've got to say, I'll make a reappearance towards the end of this presentation.
Good,
Some you don't need to be in a rush.
Bring them up, I'll see. I've got 12 minutes.
Just like. Success.
Right. I don't know if I can do some.
You do good.
Yeah, thanks.
Don't you laugh?
Don't give them license for that.
Good to go? Happy days, right. I'm going to do a quick intro to start. I've been fortunate enough to be with CODC for 18 months now. You know, I know, it's gone fast.
and you today for Peter as well, shouldn't you?
All these newbies, they tell us what to do.
It's easy to remember, carry on.
One of the first things that I think we had a conversation around this table was some of our facilities, there've been some great work over the last sort of 5 or 6 years on trying to find efficiencies and trying to save costs where we can and run things as good as what we possibly could. And I think over the last 18 months, we've continued to look at all of that and look at the changes that we can make to find more and more efficiencies. And I think it's thanks to this EPIC team to my right, we've had, one of the things that we did do was a slight structure change within community experience, which meant bringing, I guess, all of our operations closer and, you know, I guess making a slightly flatter structure. So you all know the one and only Gordon Bailey on the right-hand side there, our Parks and Rec manager. We've now got Amy Peterson on as our libraries manager. We've got Erin on as our customer services manager and Carly as our aquatics manager and using like me, David. So just a little bit of a recap. We obviously manage nearly 2,000 hectares of reserve land, and under day-to-day management, we have nearly 300 hectares of reserve land that's managed under Gordy's sort of profile. We also have 13 sites across our district, so we very lightly talked before around things like security, and we'll talk a little bit about that here as well. We have had a security audit across all of our sites to have flagged some high risk areas and low risk areas, and so we do need to make sure that we're investing in there as, you know, I guess our, you know, aggression levels in the community are evolving and changing. It's good for us to be on top of all of that kind of stuff. Across our entire portfolio and serving the 26,000 residents that we do have, we do it with only 55 FTE across our group. So one of the things that we've talked about, or Tim's talked about a little bit, is we have about 150 FTE as a council, and so 55 in our group who are essentially frontline serving within our organisation. So we are pretty lean with how we operate. And I do want to just sort of draw, we have talked a little bit about growth in the area, around that 12% growth over the last 5 years from the Benji Patterson report that we had. And more or less from an FTE count, we haven't lifted within this group over that time. One of the things we've done over the last sort of 4 or 5 years is we've introduced different types of technology that help speed up some of the things that we have, to be able to start tracking some of our customer sort of journey throughout our council, start understanding where our sore points are and where we can start to increase our efficiencies there. We've introduced things, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, around RFID in the libraries to help self-service. We've got new technology in the pools. We've implemented a few new sort of product lines within our pools as well to help offset some of those revenue challenges as well. But just a couple of things that I guess now that, you know, I'm 18 months on, we're as a leadership group about 12 months on, sort of working together. A couple of our sort of challenges and pain points that we see that I think it's really important for you guys to have on your radar as well, is that we do have aging facilities and systems. Some of our buildings, as you know, are decades old. We've got underground infrastructure for irrigation that is coming up on half a century old. We have implemented and changed some systems to bring it up to, I guess, more modern technology. We've very lightly mentioned safe working with staff. We've had an audit in making sure that we are doing the right thing for our staff. One of the things that we did do, thanks to your blessing earlier this year, was we adjusted our hours to make sure that we had all of our staff meetings when we do have, 55 FTE, and that is across part-time staff. We've got, at any one time, we've got about 90 people within our group. So when we are having staff meetings, we used to have them outside of hours in a lot of the groups. So they would finish their day at, say, 5 o'clock, and then from 5 to 6, they would have a team meeting, and then we would pay extra, overtime on that to meet the extra hours. We now try to, as much as possible, have our staff meetings within hours, and as you know, that we've adjusted the council opening hours to 9:30 instead of 8:30 on a Thursday. And massive thanks to the community and all those hundreds of people listening today, is that we've had sort of no negative feedback there as well. And I think the value that Erin and her team, but also the wider council get in connecting with our customer services regularly, making sure people are upskilled and being trained. It's been a hugely beneficial thing for us to do, and we took some cost savings in the process of doing that as well by doing it in work hours, which was great. Mentioned new technology, some changing security, and sort of as we go through this, just general discussion, your thoughts about things as well. So can I get the next slide there, Wayne? We'll kick it off with libraries, and I just want to sort of set the scene around growth, really across our group and how we are working some of our facilities. And we talked about this through the annual plan, and the direction that council gave me was we're implementing RFID, we're implementing a few different things through the annual plan. Let's really understand the capacity of our facilities when it comes to libraries. And so we did hold our FTE, and we've held this FTE since probably 2019, 2020. And you can see through we had a little bit of a dip with COVID. But in our higher growth areas, namely Cromwell, we've had some fairly good growth. This is visitors through the door with our libraries. Cromwell's had some pretty good growth, in particular, that sort of, it bounced back from COVID well. And as we've seen through, I guess more people coming into the district, it's growing considerably as well. Alex has essentially returned back to pre-COVID growth. Clyde is slowly increasing. I guess that's within, the growing population of Clyde. Maniatoto has increased a little bit as well. And Roxburgh doesn't include Miller's Flat there, but I guess it's come back slightly there. As many of you know, Roxburgh is it's a combined service centre, so it has an eyesight library and service centre all in one. But one of the key trends that have changed here for our libraries is, I guess we've seen a change in use. And just an example is one electricity company that I don't know of does not do paper statements anymore. And probably about 6 or 8 months ago, was it roughly, they went through a process of telling all of their customers that you've now got to get an email address and start to register for getting your power account sent to you via email. And that's where our libraries and what our libraries are doing, starting to change and supporting our community, namely in that particular instance, our elderly community on setting them up with things like emails, helping with internet banking, as we're sort of transitioning into this new, sort of changing technology that our elderly people are now being exposed to. And so we're seeing much more, from a library's point of view, much more of an emphasis on sort of that one-to-one interaction with our libraries and helping our community, which has been, hats off to Amy and her team for the way they welcome everybody into libraries and are part of that. But you can see that as we've continued to grow in our communities, our people through the doors are continuing to grow as well. And naturally, that is putting pressure on our staff. The other thing we have is diversity within our community. So we have a few other things set up in our libraries. We now have things like dementia days up in Cromwell. We're starting to increase, I guess, our breadth of our programs to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our diversified community. And that naturally comes with its challenges. Next slide.
David, just clarify that. Yeah. What you're showing there is number of people through the door. Yeah. And how is that measured?
We have door counters on there.
Sorry,
We have door counters. So when people go through the door, it counts a person coming into the.
But in Roxburgh, that's the door to the service centre, not so it doesn't really tell us about the library, does it?
That's correct, yeah, yeah. It's the main sliding door into Roxburgh, so. Yeah.
And the money in toto, because it's shared with the school, is that figure distorted?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. The majority of the school students come via, there's an internal access to the school, so, yeah, it's
Probably a bit more reliable.
close to, it's not as exact, but money and total being a bit more reliable. Yeah. So, just from the library's point of view, and just some considerations that we're coming through here, just a reflection on some of the things that we've done so far. Libraries, Amy and her team, we had a subsection of our own library's website within CODC, so that essentially helps speed up some of the efficiencies. There's lots of events and opening hours and changes of information, and that's something they have direct access to now to be able to change these things. We've implemented RFID, so those of you who have been in the libraries, that's now live and going well. We had some funding from Better Off, and as you have probably seen, the refurbishment is underway for that. I'll just jump from the Alex Library down into, I guess, growth of the district and resource. As I have mentioned, to maintain the level of service that we do have, we are going to have to look at increasing our FTE in our libraries. We operate on a very low number within our libraries, so Cromwell is resourced by about 2.5 FTE for the entire library, and Alex is around sort of that low threes, about 3.4, 3.5. And it's something I'd like for us to look at is increasing those FTEs by just one, and Cromwell, potentially 0.5 would be amazing, and Alex as well, over the next couple of years. We are seeing an increase in things like loans, events, more people through the door, and it is putting a strain on our staff. And that's really coming down to our district's growth. You know, I guess our district has grown 12% within the last 5 years, and that's sort of what we're seeing through the doors as well. So the pressure that we are seeing on our community facilities, and namely libraries, is really a direct reflection to the growth of our community, and it's something we're going to have to start to resource, and that's hopefully something that you guys would look to support as that comes through. Another couple of things we're looking at is things like increased diversity, and then later on is working through a library strategy about how are we going to access our broader communities right out to the likes of Patearoa, looking at Bannockburn, how that continues to grow, what's going to be the best way to service our communities as they continue to grow over the next 10 years. We don't have for our libraries a clear growth strategy, and that's something we'd love to look at over the next sort of 18 months. And it's something that Amy and I will do together while leaning on other people in the district. So it wouldn't be a big sort of line item, but something we'd like some sort of consultant money and then to lean on a couple of pros here in New Zealand who have gone through similar growth. And then probably just the other thing to just throw out to the table is the Alexandra Library currently being Central Stories. We've heard great things, and I'd love everybody's feedback here on what they've seen, and I think it's been a great thing that we've stumbled across in connecting that library to a museum and what that looks like.
Well, was the question I was going to ask Amy, because I know my use of the last 2 weeks has changed totally. I now go on my app, order the book, go and pick it up. I never ever, so it's made no difference to me. Service has been fantastic, and I appreciate it. But I never walk down the aisles and think, what am I going to read now? Because I'm doing it all off my app. Is that a change that you're seeing and more so, particularly with adults that I know I want I've ordered it, here it is, as opposed to just, what I'm.
Yeah, absolutely, the danger of watching. Yeah, you've got that app that you can do that yourself. And also now with our new self-checkout machines, which you may have used, but they're amazing if anyone's used them. The RFID self-checkout.
There you go.
Even kids can do. Yeah, they're amazing. You put more than one book and it just reads it automatically.
So while we've got that beautiful space and having a look through it the other day at the VCP was great. But it's a big space, the need for the footprint of display, you still got as many books. the need for the footprint of display is increased, is something we need to look at, because that's quite a valuable building.
Yeah.
If the functionality is working in central storage, do we open that old scheme again? But sure is, we need income streams. Sorry.
But the space is also utilised for people to just be in the community hub to take the kids to play Verbo, or people study there, people work there. It's not just about the books that are in there, it's more than that to the community.
Yeah, Nigel, interesting.
Yeah, David said pressure on staff because of growth, which is, but I would have thought that was an incomplete statement, because what I'm hearing is that the range of services that the library is offering is changing and evolving. And I just wonder whether we need to we have the word strategy somewhere, but it's very unclear in my mind, because what you're describing in terms of community services, helping people who can't get on out of contact with their billing, it is a fairly open-ended let's say an open-ended book. And that plus exactly what Tim said, that the space required for books is maybe diminished, because the way people I'd echo what he says in the way you access books. But then the pressure comes on, will we use that space to provide seats, or provide computers, or to provide. So I think we might have a tiger by the tail we put in. It might be, well, I'll ask your opinion whether it's time to have some kind of overall medium long-term strategic view of what we think libraries are, and what they are in the community, and how much they're going to cost. Because if you look at the technology changes around issuing a book and returning a book, you'd say, gee, we need less staff now because the technology has changed. In fact, you'll say we need more staff. So I've got a big question mark in my mind about what's the potential cost, and what's the purpose in the community of a library.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think it's sort of, to break it right down into two things. We've sort of got a short-term pressure of increased people through the door, and a people resource for us to be able to solve in the short term, sort of, from the start of the LTP over into when we start to look at the library strategy. The library strategy is exactly to answer your question, what are libraries becoming for the CODC, but also in general, that they're very different to what they were sort of 20 or 30, 40 years ago. The face of them is changing, the types of the people that are coming through the door is changing, the employees that we have are changing, everything is starting to change within libraries. And that's why we've got that line in there from 2026, and that's sort of a work program point of view for us to be able to go and have that conversation with the community. And to Tim's point is around that space, is it best to utilise that in open park areas so people can take books outside and use their technology outside and things like that? Or how do they connect within inside, indoors? What does that look like? I'm not sure if this council's ever had that conversation with this community about what are libraries for Central Otago District Council, and that would be something that we would want to have with this community about the changing face. So, yeah.
And then
more comment, you asked for feedback as to the two together.
Yeah.
Being in there, admittedly not with little children, but there was a lot of little children coming out with a lot of parents, because that's where the library was. And talking to Paula, she said that the two teams have worked very good, but there has been a few wee challenges, which is inevitable when you decrease both spaces for both entities. I thought it was great because there was so many people in there, but that building isn't big enough at the moment. God help us, don't look at Tim, to house that. So at the moment you couldn't have the both together.
You talking about central storage?
Yes.
Really?
It's not big enough to have the two, not for
not in the way the space is allocated currently.
Thank
That ties into my question. I just wondered, Amy, if you were happy to highlight, I guess, what are the biggest pros of having those facilities together at the moment and the biggest cons that you found in the last little while? Because it has been
Space.
together.
But it's just not enough space.
Yeah.
For storage, and we've also had a lot of technical issues with getting our network to function properly there. That's been quite a problem for the staff. We are just so looking forward to getting into our newly refurbished library. It's looking amazing. Yeah, and I don't know if you guys have seen the new signage.
Yes.
Yeah,
So delighted with that.
haven't had any emails yet.
To the point of, just on the technology thing, is that we're currently, I think, we're still beating the Wi-Fi from this building, into central stores, just because there is people do connect to Wi-Fi and there is a heavy load of technology in libraries now as well. And that's one of the things that the new building provides is upgraded fibre and new wiring and cabling throughout the whole building, which is going to be massively beneficial to it. So, and to the point of a strategy, libraries are changing, they're evolving, they do involve technology in a considerable way now, and some of the apps where we are downloading books, it is something that this council invests in. And I don't actually have the stats of how many people use it, but I do know that when it went out for a little while, we knew about it, didn't we?
Yeah. We didn't actually realise how popular the app was.
That's right. Yeah.
Jim, just talking about growth, the way I said, the population's going to double in the next 9 years.
Yeah.
You're going to need twice as many staff as you got now.
Yeah.
And when you did your presentation, all I could think was community service centre. Because people go in there for different purposes other than what we don't. They won't go and main centre in Ranfurly and do the business.
Yeah.
So they'll go to the library. And the numbers, I was quite surprised by the numbers.
Yeah.
And after being involved when they're trying to shut down the library in Ranfurly with the school,
Yeah, that's a good time.
you wouldn't want to be involved doing that. But I mean, I'm surprised at the usage.
Yeah.
And I just don't know how you're going to handle the growth if it does change.
Yeah, and I think that's the importance of the strategy for us to, sit down and understand the changing face of it and make sure that we do resource it in a way that is fit for purpose and provides a level of service that is expected by, I guess, our diversifying community and, to stop and check in at this point in time, have the conversation with the community as well. I think it's going to be a pretty awesome piece of work for us to be able to do. And, that may be a result as a, what does a building service offer look like? Don't know if that's the dual strategy, I guess. But,
when you look at the strategy though, without I'll go over the issue now, but libraries don't have any user paid element to them whatsoever, unlike some pools.
Yeah.
I would have thought, well, I'm keen to think that somewhere in the strategy, the look of some kind of partial user pays is on the table to be examined.
Yeah. Is that for me to know to review in the strategy?
Just for a
comment. Yeah.
Cheryl.
Do you still pay fines if you're overdue books?
No.
That's a way of generating money.
Yeah, well, do you say that, but it cost us more than what it was to generate, because of the amount of admin behind it. So we probably made about $2,000 a year from fines. And I would suggest that we probably spent at least 5 times on that, doing the administration. Yeah, to follow them up. In fact, probably even higher than that, because it's quite a manual process to get on and ring people. And then, by the time they get to the library, I'd like to get these books out. Sorry, I've got an overdue fine. I don't have my wallet, and then essentially we lose a customer. One of the things that I'd like, that is part of our strategy is to review is, have we increased our patronage? And, what does it look like to have a cafe there? I don't know.
Have we also has there been an increased number of books that never come home since we've stopped finding?
It's probably the opposite, isn't it?
Research shows that removing fines actually increases the likelihood of someone.
Don't bring them back because they're going to get fined. Yeah.
So it's in the library blacklist.
Yeah, that's wow.
With your counters, I know this is a stupid question, does it count them in or count them out in both ways? Like, is a figure a reflection of Is it 15,000 people or 29,000
Is
people?
it the double?
Yeah,
Yeah, it counts as the door. I have to double check this how it works, but it does reduce it removes the double up, but that's why it's not clear for Roxburgh. So I'll have to double check.
because the point I'm making, if you talk about Nigel's point that there's no way of affecting revenue, but I would suggest that if we've got a population of just on 6 or 7 or 100,000, 6 or 700 people in Ranford, and on a total population of 1,500, it's a very, very well-used community facility.
Yeah.
What's the rate base spread across the rate? So it's a very fair way of doing it. Instead of trying to charge like he want to charge us moving forward.
Yeah.
The obvious area of revenue that's being missed is when, because they offer a really good service to bring in books from other libraries.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it costs per book to do that.
Yeah.
But I would have thought that was a pretty obvious charge to consider making without any extra admin, because somebody's coming in to have a book they've reserved.
Yeah.
And please pay the postage to get it here.
What is the charge? There's an interline charge.
Between $7 and $14 if you want an interline. So that's out of the area.
Sorry.
That interlines we charge for. So they're between $7 and $14 to get a book from another area.
But you don't charge the borrower.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
But that's not if it's coming over from Queenstown.
LDC,
No, I'm talking about so within the district. Within the QL.
Yeah, but that's in QLDC.
So I just think it's just a question to be asked.
Yeah. I'll just, like, one of the benefits that Amy and the other library managers around sort of Southland have done a great job is they've got the group called Southland, which essentially expands our collection into.
Oh, it's fantastic.
And what it means is that we don't have to hold essentially as great a collection because we can draw on everybody else. And there's some of these things that, while there's a courier, a slight courier charge that goes on the customer, and the QLDC one is a little different, but it does mean that we might be saving, say, 10% of our book asset list because we can lean on the order side. And so there's swings and roundabouts, and I guess as we go through this library strategy, one thing we're going to have to be really conscious of is, I guess what's been built over the years. We've ended up with something that's really incredible. And if you look at the bottom line of what we spend on libraries across the district, it's quite an efficient level. And so we want to try and keep that efficiency, but then how do we really share it across the community and, meet the needs of our evolving community? So.
Great.
Tana.
I just had a comment to make that had come up the other day. The fact that QLDC had removed their fines became national news, and we've been doing it for ages.
Yeah, always at the same time as QLDC and, saying this publicly, they did as we did today.
Yeah.
That's what Dylan said before. Queenstown gets the attention.
If we look at hot desks in our life, like when we're looking at our strategy, could we potentially get a hot desk that, a business person might be in the district for a day and they want to be able to have internet and they need a working space, and libraries are generally quiet. If our libraries had room, could we hire out hot desks for an hour or half a day or something to make some room?
Like a shared working space.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the challenges that we hear back with is that some people go in for an online interview, they've got an online interview in a public library because that's the only space that they can go. We've got people who do want to go and get a job, but they might not have an internet connection at home. And they come into the library, make the most of the, the Wi-Fi that's available. And people generally do the best they can, but I think that's another awesome thing for us to look at is, I guess what is the, how can we add to the economic growth of the community through libraries too? Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Awesome. So that's one of the 4 things that we're covering. Libraries.
Forget about swimming pools.
Can we go to the next slide, Wayne? Thanks, guys. Thanks for your direction there. So again, aquatics. So I thought we'll just sort of set the scene a little bit around facility usage. And this is just overall. So you may recall this council implemented a swim school sort of 4 or 5 years ago. And the reason this data only goes back 4 years is that we only implemented technology to be able to start recording this accurately back then. So, and obviously we had COVID and things like that in the middle too, right? But we'll just look at the swim school first. And this is thanks to, I guess the epic work that Carly and her team have done. And there's probably a couple of parents around the table who have seen the the evolution of our swim school and some of the talent that Carly has created within the team today. And I think it's a real asset for the new team. And, you know, again, thanks to the community that supported this. But I mean, we have, you know, nearly 3,000 people enrolled in our swim school in Central Otago. Like, that's pretty awesome, right? 3,000, and we've got what have we got? A population base of 28. So we've got essentially 10% of our district enrolled in our swim school, you know? And you know, that evolution has come from, you know, training quality teachers, bringing in quality teachers, having really good quality people, taking the learnings, you know, there being, you know, a couple of blips along the way, and, you know, making sure we've got the right people where we need the right people. But, you know, that's gone from strength to strength. And I think, you know, that also going down to aquatic admissions over the last 4 years, you know, again, that epic talent that I guess, you know, that we have here, and, you know, in conjunction with Gordy and Carly, has grown our emissions, you know, sort of in line with the growth of our district as well. So I think if you look at, take out the middle years for COVID, but if you look at sort of that 110,000 to, you know, pushing 130,000, that's across our three main pools, Cromwell, Alex and Maniatoto. It's sort of, the growth has been in line with the growth of the community too. So, you know, I guess that's a good thing too. Councillor McKinley, you mentioned the other day that our pools bring in about 200,000 revenue each. Cromwell's just tipped over with the swim school 400,000 in revenue for the year just been, and it's around about 350. So just to use some round numbers for our swimming pools, each one of them is about 1.5, 1.6 million a year to run. And so when we can offset some of that revenue by people coming in through the door, it makes it a little bit easier on the ratepayer. But if we go to the next slide.
Those numbers again, I was just doing maths, because I'm always saying 1 to 5, it's about 1 to 4.
Yeah, it's come back a bit.
That's great.
You know,
Well done.
yeah. And I guess we have a little goal for it to be 1 to 1, for it to be 1 to 4 one day.
Perhaps that you charge everybody that wants to do all these days.
That's right, yeah, Nigel likes to.
Did I hear the word aspirational there?
There you go.
Used to be a lot cheaper to sort of note the time.
Yeah.
But actually, those swim school figures rolling forward 5 to 10 years, there'll be a lot of people who are capable of swimming.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, and so like really, you're only starting.
Yes, and then our challenge is the pool space. So we're.
Once you can swim, there's lots of rivers as well, that's it.
Take
the pool unit.
And the more classes, we've put on so many more classes to get these numbers, but there's only so many lane classes we can put in the school, the space. But yeah, we're having that. This is not also including our swim skills, which is our students that come through the schools. So that number will increase more than that for all the kids that pay about education. So it's just our social clinical numbers.
You guys know what that is? So CFDC works with Goldfields, Cromwell Primary, Alex School, Clyde School, and they have a, you know, a set of the month or so.
Each school about a week, 2
Yeah.
weeks. Yeah, but
Yeah. Yeah, so it's pretty, and Stu, to your point around, you know, the other surrounding the whole here, you know, and, you know, the more we can do to reduce drownings.
Well, that's a big thing.
The quality of the instructors has been noted in the community. I said it has vastly improved since before that time.
That's good feedback. I'll pass it on to the team.
Awesome. Can we get the next slide, Wayne? Just go through a couple of things here. So one of the things that we sort of discussed is how do we sort of maintain, I guess, service reliability and keeping our facilities open as much as possible. We had some challenges with staffing, you know, and as we do with lifeguarding, it is a bit of a transient role, isn't it? So making sure that we've got staff that are upskilled and we're able to keep the pools open as much as possible. We do aim to have 100% reliability, meaning that we are open when we say we're open. And, you know, we've had a couple of new systems implemented, like in Cromwell with the new heating system. Gordy's sort of been on that fairly hard this year to make sure it's operating as it should. And I think, knock on wood, we have got through this winter, haven't we, without any blips. So, which is great, you know, it's another great.
Have you got any figures around the cost savings?
We probably don't have cost savings with the increase of the cost of electricity. So electricity has gone up sort of 30%, but we do have savings in gas.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, yeah. So I think we,
Electricity, eh?
pardon me?
You're all electricity in Cromwell and Alex now, rather than you were gas.
Cromwell,
Gas compared to the electricity now.
yeah, we'll have to do a comparison of how much it's reduced, but I guess electricity went up considerably this year too. But I guess gas, what we're spending a month on gas?
10 to 10 grand, around spending about 1 odd grand now, so it's gone down considerably, and we're not spending that.
I guess what I'm trying to make is if we stayed with gas till the end, till we had to change, would it have been a lot cheaper?
No, because I guess the price of gas has gone up considerably. You know, now seems, you know, we're like, if you use around number, we might have saved sort of 30 or 40,000 for non-use of gas, but using, I guess, you know, a large mechanical heat pump that requires a little bit more electricity, right? But then I guess we've got our CO2 savings across. That's probably the main driver for this, wasn't it? For this project, it was around.
Yeah, it was our emissions.
Reducing emissions as much as possible. So, you know, I guess that's a great tip for us. That's nice. Aging facilities, reactive maintenance, and Gordy and Carly have been putting together a maintenance plan with a couple of contractors, and the idea of that is there's various operating models. I guess we've tried to operate the halls as hard as lean as we possibly can, and as part of this and getting into the new long-term plan, we'll be looking at things like an annual shutdown period where we can do our main maintenance, and that might be for, say, 4 or 5 days where you do the overhaul of the whole, kind of like what you would with, say, large farm machine or something. You'd shut it down for a period of time and give it a good overhaul rather than waiting for something to break. And so that's going to be a slight change in how we operate, but the idea of it is to try and increase our reliability further, given how old some of the systems are getting. And then probably the conversation that I'd love to have around the table for our polls is the team have done a great job at increasing, you know, I guess, revenue and people in through the door and what that looks like. And I think we've talked a little bit around the table before around how different pools operate around the world, where they do offer different things to offset some of the costs of a pool. So, you know, is having, I guess, that conversation with the community on what more would they want from, say, aquatics or even further health from their facilities, and how could we potentially offset some of that stuff? Would they want the opportunity to go to a cafe after they've been for a swim and have a cafe or food carts and things like that? Or what are the different things? Again, I don't know if we've had that conversation with the community yet, but or before, but having that conversation about what does an all-in-one potential service look like? It could be a place to offer, you know, we've got different spaces and areas, but it could be a place to offer, I don't know, say a physio to go and lease a space near a pool. So it's nice and, you know, someone go to the pool and then go to the physio, and that kind of stuff is just a, you know, I guess something else, just to look at other revenue opportunities to be able to offset some of those costs for the community.
Any questions on polls?
Could I ask just in terms of, well, two things really. One, I can't talk for Alex or Randy, but from the pool, I thought there's considerable opportunities to increase revenue by combining with other activities.
Yep.
And my other question is, admission prices and the pricing structure in terms of being able to offer season passes and making user-friendly good payment, that reviewed rigorously and annually. In other words, I mean, I don't know the last time admission prices were increased for the pool.
That's
3 months ago.
Yeah.
Next year, yeah. Yeah, so they went up.
Before we went to this term swimming lessons, that's when, before this term swimming lessons bills came out.
It's just that we've been in a situation in the past where it just keeps ignore and all of a sudden you're paying catch up.
Yeah, that's something we'll make sure that we review.
So they went up by how much, how many percent 3 months ago?
So an adult entry went from 6.50 to 7, but on average they went up about 50 cents, so.
No pushback from that.
Yeah.
No, not really. We haven't had any price increases for a very long time. And the customers were actually, some of them were saying, wow, I don't have any price increases.
I just have an idea.
Yes. Okay, I understand. It's the cost of living, it's the cost of our training our staff pays. It's our chemicals, it's our electricity, it's our everything, so everyone understands.
And is it scope to offer more user-friendly means of payment and?
Yeah, we've got now online payments, online enrollments, we've got easy debits, all that kind of stuff is already in place at the moment. Yeah.
Okay.
You don't have to have cold hard cash.
Sure.
You don't have to have cold hard cash.
What's that?
Nigel, you have a membership, Nigel?
Yeah. If age concern, I'm important day.
But I've got a full.
Well played.
He doesn't want to go with it.
So we've had pools, we've had libraries.
Yeah, on
What
to the
about
next
pools?
one, eh?
Customer services, right?
Yeah, customer services. So this is Erin's baby. It's a bit of an intro here, it's, I guess, over, in particular the last 12 months. So Erin became a customer services manager earlier this year, but I guess one of the key things here again has been introducing technology and starting to track and record some of the things that do come through. And sorry, those numbers are quite small, but just on there, a light month is about 3,000 interactions with our customer services team. And a heavy month when an 18% rates rise went out, about 5,000 interactions with our customer services team. So I guess it's just, it's good to be able to show some of the stuff we haven't had the starter before to be able to understand where the pressure points are. And just in the green, the blue and the, oh, I've lost it.
Green, blue.
Yeah, so the green, the blue and the sort of purpley colour, just at the top there, you know, this is thanks to some of the great work that Erin's team and also the wider team do in educating Erin's team. But essentially 57% of inquiries that come and get resolved by the customer services team. And that puts less of a load on people like our planners and, you know, building consent officers or Gordy and his team, where they are able to give, you know, an early answer as upfront as possible. And we have joked around increasing that percentage to a number that I won't say publicly, but we've got an idea of we'd like to be able to continue that. And thanks to, I guess, making sure that Erin and her team are able to train and be informed by, you know, the wider council employees and yourselves through having more regular team meetings. Hopefully we can keep that education going where we see that number go from 57 to 57.5 next year, for example. I'll set KPIs like myself. Yeah, but it's a really cool thing. And just that shot there is a shot of the screen where all of our customer services staff are able to see things like who's on the phone, time to answer a call, time on the call, all of that kind of stuff, which is, you know, nice. It's good for the team to be able to interact with each other, especially being a decentralized customer services team. It sort of brings everybody a bit closer together and aids their, I guess, the way they're able to see everything and make sure that Erin's able to spread that load sort of evenly across the team as well. And I guess the joy of introducing some of these things, if we go next slide, Wayne.
That's a good plug for Nathan's Power BI, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not just the pictures, it's the information.
Yeah.
Well, now quick, now you get it.
Well, just to connect that to Nathan's Power BI. So that's one system, which is, we've got the name of it up there. It's Good Genesis Call Centre, which Erin and Nathan introduced probably a little over 12 months ago now. But that's, I guess, the call system that we use. So when you come in and you talk to council first, that sort of comes through and manages all the calls and all of that kind of stuff. And one of the things that something like Power BI can do is track it from that system through Magic, through all of our other systems, people go through council and show us in live, you know, I guess as close to live as possible, people's interaction, the time it's taken to come through. And then obviously you guys would get to see a version of that too, which is, you know, that would be, I guess, the dream further down the road. But it also means it comes with, you know, we talked about AI today, the Microsoft version of it, but Genesis also comes with a version of AI, and Erin and her team are currently building out a knowledge base. And so the idea of that is eventually we would look to have a chatbot online as well. So, you know, there's sort of common things like if somebody would ring up and be like, what time does the pool close? They could jump online and chat to the chatbot, which I won't share the name of the chatbot, but they'd chat to the chatbot and that would just come up, things that can start to self-learn. Obviously need a fair bit of data behind it first, but that's something here in the team have started working on through that. I mentioned the security review, and I think this is just an important thing to mention around the table. We are noticing, as I'm sure you guys are, increased aggression out there in the community, and it's something that we do. And I and Peter, I guess, oversee our staff taking more and more seriously. We did undertake a security review this year, which was really informative and gave us a few things to prioritise to just help look after our staff, but also other community members as well. So we're sort of working through that, and that'll sort of come through in the budget when you guys will see some of the things that we're presenting. And then I guess the growth in the district, like everything, is just making sure that we're not sort of overworking some of our staff and we're understanding where the pressure points are. And some of this data has been really important for us to be able to connect with that, where are the busier sites, where are the non-busier sites, and how do we make sure we can have flows of calls as good as we possibly can. So is there anything you want to add? Yeah.
No.
That was a pretty good summary.
With the security.
Yeah.
Is there an age group that they have issues with?
It varies, you know. Yeah, I probably wouldn't want to give it to a specific age, but we probably have.
How old are you? Look, I was thinking of my mother really. Because there's some really angry bill payers.
Yeah.
That aren't what you traditionally would think of being the person that gets angry about their account, so I'm just.
Yeah.
Tracy.
Just in relation to the security review, would, by implementing what Nathan was talking about, would that help with staff retention?
What do you reckon now? That makes staff a little bit safer in some instances around implementing CCTV?
Yeah, I think it would definitely help with that well-being and side of things, and really, yes, safe and secure in your environment.
Well, one of the other things we've just recently done is some things like de-escalation training, you know, how to manage yourself and all of that kind of stuff, which is quite a regular thing that we try to do and keep on top of as well. Because, you know, I guess when you have someone has given you an earful and told you what they think of you and, you know, what they might potentially do to you and stuff, these people do have families to go home to at night and kids to go home to, and, you know, and that's something we have to be conscious of as well, you know, so. And the toll on people, so I think it would increase it considerably. Yeah.
Question about 57% of the, I was going to say, issues are dealt with the front desk is pretty good. That's amazing. Yeah, that's an amazing, because if any of the comments that I get back are not about the staff, it's about council, if that's the percentage, usually I probably fix 100% of them in a pretty short conversation. But it's very hard when you're sitting on the phone and someone's ranting, whether it be about a dog or whether it be about a pop-up.
Yeah.
I think that's quite amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel want to take that. Yeah.
Because that's hard when you had such a big rate kick.
Yeah.
It's not us, but we do get it, but we don't get it in the same constant numbers as your staff get it. Yeah. Well done.
Yeah.
To you and your staff.
Yeah. Yeah. I thank you.
Unless you want to put a lights again today. All those others are causing us grief all day.
Yeah.
Still time.
Yeah. All right, is there anything else on customer services? Are you sort of happy with that trajectory of?
But I would just say as me, you know, a lot of the stuff comes to my desk when people aren't happy and I'm not getting much. And that's great, thank you. And people are generally really, really well pleased. A lot of the ones that aren't, perhaps, should we say, stretched in their degree of reasonableness with which they hold life.
Yeah.
And I think so. I've done a great job.
I think it falls back on you guys for allowing us the time to train and get educated and all that things and to being able to answer more queries on that first protocol.
Righty ho, well, yes, this is
We got
fourth and four.
Yeah, here we go.
Here we go.
Yes.
Just the next one, mate.
Now, Gordy's and I would have these trios, the first run at the council meeting.
Not an old, that's experience.
Yeah.
So, get me a breath from David. So we've got just a few focus areas here. So, earlier in the year, we renewed the, open space contract with Delta for a further 5 years. So, in the 10-year plan, a new contract will come up, and I'm not sure where that'll land, but that'll come up in the middle of the LTP. And I guess over the last few years, we've been with Delta understanding the pressures that the open space contract has had, and I guess a lot of, like everybody else in the last few years, was those inflationary costs. And we're just planning on going forward in the LTP with the status quo, with continuing those efficiencies David talked about, where we can, and doing stuff a lot smarter than we have, and using technology and things as well. However, there will be some growth seen in that contract from the subdivisions and growth in the community as well. So people coming in, there's more places to live, there's usually more parks or trees or stuff developed. So we've got to maintain those. And growth is also with litter bins. We have a level of service ramps up over the summer, so winter might be 2 times a week, and certain places in the summer and holiday periods it's daily, or 2 or 3 times daily in the bins we've got. So there's increasing visitor population as well as the local population getting around and depositing their litter in the bin. So there's quite a increase in cost and service in that, and then there's the costs of emptying and stuff that have been placed on the councils as well. So there's sort of a double cost there. So we're looking at ways, and we'll bring at some point through the LTP how we might get more efficient or effective in that, or do we have bins in certain places or not? But we haven't quite gone there and had that conversation with the community yet. There's a lot of some places you've probably seen have rubbish in, rubbish out sort of scenarios, but we haven't got there yet.
And just quickly on that, with levels of service of bin, if there is a bin, do you then have to offer recycling bins? Is that obligation coming on us? So you can't just have general waste, you've now got to have general waste, cardboard, plastic and so on, or because that is a level of service discussion.
Yeah, so we have been looking at what sort of bins we have, and we just generally, we have a few, not many ones that we can put recycling in, and some just rubbish. And I guess if you've been to Queenstown, they have a lot of big bins, banks of bins, and we've been looking at that option, but their research has shown that glass is fine, everything else is contaminated. Just about. So I think we probably only have 2, one for glass, one for everything else. Makes sense. And that's sort of where we're heading, and just where we have them and how we get them is the other issue as well. We've been working through life cycles and replacement of areas like park benches, and more particular in playground equipment, because we've got a lot of aging playground equipment with no or little play ability or play experience for the kids. So we're working on a process and a policy on play and how that'll, I should say, play out. Will play out over the district. So there's a bit of that sort of work to go, and whether we spend a little bit of money on a lot of playgrounds or better facility, less money and more money on less playgrounds to give people that experience is something that'll fall out of that process. Sport Otago, we've been giving a grant to for many years for their services in the community, and I think the last LTV that went into the grants pot, and
sort of was contestable when it's not really contestable, because it's paying for their staff and stuff to do contract work for us, so we don't have to do that. So we're taking that out of that grant and putting it back in the line item in the park. So it's around 48,000 a year at this stage, which would be more secure for them, and I guess give wouldn't sort of overtrade what our grants is when it's going to be a grant anyway. It's going to be given anyway, I suspect. And we touched on it, so Julie touched on it. So irrigation is quite a big issue and a cost for us as well. A lot of our areas are already on bore water, so Pioneer Park and Molyneux Park, Anderson Park, Alpha Streets and Gear Ave, Greenway areas are all on bore water at the moment. We've been working over the years of using technology to make it more effective, more efficient. That's putting rain sensors on, so when it rains, they don't go on the next day when after it's rained and things like that, and also more efficient sprinkler heads and things like that, but we still have an aging pipe network under the ground. We've got consent conditions for the bores we need to regularly use. We've got backflow preventing and more going on over the next little while through a program Julie's got on train, so they'll need to be inspected, and it's going to be increased cost for that. And I guess the other thing of bore water, look at those, so putting a bore down about 200k, put those down, and then you've got hopefully able to, if you can get the consent, so you've got to get consent first and then put that down, so we've got to balance those costs off. And I guess the biggest water user I think we've got that's not on board is a big fruit area that's quite well watered. So we have been trying to put the least water on to have what we call a light green rather than dark green effect. And that's what we've been doing. Yeah, so we have been reducing the water we put on, but turning water off is going to be collateral costs because of the trees, particularly in greenways and things, have been used for the water for the last 40 years. The roots are only surface, semi-surface deep. The soil in both Cromwell and Alex is silt, sand, so they aren't able to retain the water. And I guess the good example was that about 4 years ago, one of the bores in I think in Anderson Park failed around Christmas time. We couldn't get a new pump for some weeks, and we're still taking trees out from that episode. People in Cromwell will know that. So it's unfortunate that's how it was set up in the old days, but that's something we have to try and work with, and where possible we don't water if we can help it. So
you won't be replacing those trees, are you?
No, we're not replacing them because there's enough tree roots there. Enough trees there. It's pretty tree, but I mean, once you've got to lose water for a little time, they will die, and then you've got to, and then you've got another cost to take them all out and do something else. So it's a sort of we're stuck sort of thing, but we are doing the best with what we've got and sort of looking at other options of taking things off potable water is where we're heading as well. So at least it's hopefully getting used.
And I think as Julie mentioned, we're her favourite and biggest customer. And there's other places like Manitoba Stadium and things like that have a draw on town supply, you know, and so there's things like that we'll be looking in the long-term plan about sort of numbers that Gordy's talking about how do we move things away from town supply.
There used to be a dam there that pumped all that water out there, and there's a well there that used to be there years ago, so.
Yeah, well, that's an option that we're sort of looking at as well. Yeah.
Do you use soil moisture meters to keep an eye on where things are at so you don't overwater?
No, that's our next stage of the technology, I guess, to put in.
Probably need to have the Carfields irrigation in Canterbury, because they put it on their dairy farm. They drill it underground. It's a dripper system. They use that in Lancaster Park and a lot of the parks around Christchurch. And it basically uses 20% less water and grows a whole lot more grass. And those technologies are out there. American technology is pretty cool.
And they like to do the technologies once the aging stuff is actually really faded. So, you know, transition somewhere, and we've got to transition those costs as well.
Upstairs stations too.
Yeah, we have, yeah.
So that I
We pay for that. We pay for that. That's part of the. So the other thing is, pest control, you know, we're getting increasing pressures on mainly rabbits, and we've spent a bit of money this year in Cromwell Cemetery, Clyde Cemetery, the Half Mile, and, where else? Martin Town, yeah. To do some control, but, it's hard when the neighbours don't comply with the offences, because then they come back and Daggerland and, you know, cemetery gates are always open, so.
Any direction from the ORC in relation to that?
No, financially, no, we just have to comply because we're the landowners.
The challenge when stock has such a massive problem that goes right through the middle of the town.
That's right, and laptop, limbs, there's other landowners as well, so. Yeah, it's not the best system what we have at the moment.
No, but that's only because we fence them all out and then shoot the ones that sneak through.
But not everybody does that.
Not in the town.
But then with Pindone, you know, people, some people are not keen on that in town, probably got issues with, you know.
Chat 10
Kids and things. I get a good feel. Awesome.
Had dog registration. Go down.
Running down a corner on a bike.
Dog ribbons.
Come to other things, so the Cromwell Racecourse redevelopment, so we've just tended to develop a master plan for that because of sports fields and Cromwell are at or over their usage, so we're looking at that, turn that into a bit of a sports hub. So that'll come through the system. I don't know what that looks like until the master plan is done, but the community board will get to see that between now and Christmas. Then, I've got Cromwell Cemetery there. I think we've got 3 cemeteries that are almost 4 cemeteries that we need to redevelop because the current ones are full after 150 years or so. So that's Clyde, Alexandra, Cromwell, and Naseby. So there's quite a bit of pressure on doing some development in their cemetery, so we've got enough.
Huge capacity. So in that, I had an interesting conversation with a friend of mine who's from the Netherlands, who said in the Netherlands, when you buy a cemetery plot, you get it for 50 years and then you have to get out.
Not physically get out.
Yeah,
So-
like you've got to have your family.
We don't have that legislation here yet.
Will it come, do you think?
The government, I think, for nearly 10 years has been trying to review the Cemetery Fair Information Act of 1964, but it's not quite made it onto the legislative timetable yet.
Your family have to remove you, and if they don't, then they just dig you up and put you over
You
there.
put it in mass, you put it in mass grave.
Not much
Cemeteries have to be a council-owned asset.
Yes.
There's no money in it. No, I mean, fine, they take that down the road in 50 years, what you're talking about, why can't you have privately owned cemetery?
No, council by legislation have to supply.
Yeah, so we're going to make it.
That's right. Yeah.
Because in Cromwell, we have to go to council there to do it.
Yeah, we have to.
Yeah.
You can have private ones, but we also have to.
I was getting a minister.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the point I'm making. If it's owned by the council,
Big opportunity cost this.
We're very close. Voices from the east.
It was me.
Yes.
Gordy, I'm surprised the Cromwell Cemetery is full. There's a whole lot of land that has been bought that's ready to go. Just needs the plan developed for it. So we don't need any more land. There's plenty of land there to put more people in. And I assume as part of your Cromwell Racecourse, looking at sports field hubs and stuff, we're looking very closely at the legislative hurdles that need to be crossed to make that happen going forward, and nailing that down once and for all, because I think that's, I'm sure you're well aware of it, but it's a really important piece of work for sports fields, but it's probably a more important piece of work to first understand what we can do and how we can do what we want to do with that piece of land, because there's some stuff that could otherwise get in the road of it.
Yeah. So the cemetery in Cromwell first, yes, we're aware the cost will be to go into the new part of that cemetery.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, which won't be as much as getting a new one because we've already got the land.
Yeah, that's right. And the next, and yeah, we are working with the Cromwell Racecourse and we're working through that as part of the process.
So I guess the pressures are literally cradle to the grave and you know, everything that'll be sort of considering.
And, sorry, Wayne, just the next, last slide. So just a couple of other things we're combining through the LTP is we've had lots of little line items for those various, things on that list, and we've combined them up into, in each ward, there's a line item for each of those rather than this playground in this place, because it's not always how it pans out, so we can do whatever needs doing in that particular ward at the stage. And they've had little value, so we also need to be conscious that the staff member responsible for delivering those time's got to go to those, so that's part of the project, so it's when you've got a $2,000 DL code, it's not going to spend, you know, after a week doing something there, because we've got not enough money to buy whatever you're going to do in this case. You know what I mean? So that's what we've done from tidying up. So that's about me.
Love it. Questions, councillors? All right. Thank you.
Just one little, just last slide there, Wayne. Sorry, just a little sum up slide. And this is just more, is there one other slide, Wayne?
There is.
Yes. This is just sort of generic, just to keep in the back of your mind. So, we're just working through, I guess, the operating model of Cromwell Memorial Hall when that comes to life, and we, you know, need to have a conversation with the community board as well. But I just wanted to have in the back of your mind that that will be a cost that needs to be considered as part of this LTP.
How do you see that tying in with your museum strategy? He asked Summer Supple.
Thank you. The Memorial Hall operating model.
Yeah.
I wanted to get home.
Well, no, I'm just saying, I'll put it another way. Don't forget the museum strategy in that conversation.
Right, gotcha.
Nothing is in concrete.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks for that.
No
It
worries.
looked like a prop that went sailing across the room there, David.
Yeah, I felt it. Yeah, loud and clear. And then just, I guess, for us as community experience, you know, we are a growing community. How are we going to meet the growing needs of our community? So just looking to put together a strategy, and that's something that probably won't have a cost to it, but something that I will do with the team here in 2025. We've talked a little bit about levels of service, and I guess as you go through the workshops, I think the level of service workshop is around that. I've been in another month or two. So, you know, we'll come back to options on there for you guys to consider if there is some levels of service that you do want to consider. And then is there anything else that you guys had bubbling away for myself or any of these sort of fun sitting at the table?
Doesn't look like it. All right, thank you very much. What we're going to do is we're going to have just a break for a cup of tea, a toilet break, and then we'll come back to